Hey, hi, hello. Welcome back to Be the Change or Stop Complaining, your weekly dose of health podcast. This is just a really quick introduction to the Zoom call that you are about to listen to. I'm going to say all of this in the Zoom call, but the audio is a little fucky, so I'm just going to say it one more time in the beginning of the podcast. We are talking to a wonderful human named Joshua Young. He was 7 years old when his father split, and at the same exact time, his mother was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis, and she went downhill real quick. So it was just him and his mom, and he had to take care of her from the age of 7 all the way up until she passed away. And then years later, his wife came down with a serious illness. So we are talking to Joshua today about his experiences. So that is the episode today. It is a Be the Change story. So please enjoy. Also, please leave a review on Apple Podcasts if you like this podcast so that we can get many more guests on here. Thank you.
So be the change. And if you don't want to be the change, you're not ready to be the change, then stop complaining.
Here we are. We're here with another episode of Be the Change or Stop Complaining, your weekly dose of health podcast. And we are here with Joshua Young. You can call him Josh if you want to, but he goes by Joshua. And we're talking about his experience with his mother. And also we're going to get into the wife. Is it wife? Yes. Okay. His story with his mom first, and then the story with his wife second. About his life with his mom after his mom got diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. Weird, small world, isn't it? We're going to talk about that. And then we're going to talk about his wife and his experience helping his wife with her mysterious illness and what he did to be his change. Right, Josh? What? Joshua?
Yeah.
All right, cool. So I know we just did this, but go ahead and go right back through your story. I'm probably going to interrupt you a couple of times to ask some questions.
Perfect.
But you go for it.
All right. So back when I was 7, my mom was diagnosed with MS, and her MS progressively gotten worse throughout the years. So when first diagnosed, we'd go to the store, and she'd have to hold on to my hand in order to just go peruse if we wanted to do anything, because it was affecting her legs. As time got on, it progressed from needing to use my hand to needing a walker to needing to be pushed in a wheelchair to now she's in her house and she can only get around in an electric wheelchair. And she can drive, but she needs hand controls. In order to get to the 3 steps into the car, I have to be behind her, just making sure she doesn't fall the entire time, every single morning and every single evening. She did an incredible job of going to work and working as a special ed teacher, in which she showed up, and then she had another group of people who also assisted getting her into her electric wheelchair to go teach. And that was our system. I started learning health and fitness through my mom's illness. So there would be times where she would fall, and I would have to try my hardest in order to help her get back up on her feet or to a seated position. And there was these moments where I didn't have the strength in order to get her in a position where she could help herself get up. So I'd have to call neighbors or other extended friends. And I started working out at about the age of 10, just lifting weights with the old weight bench that we had down in our basement in order to get stronger so I could then better assist my mother. And it worked a little bit.
Yeah, there's not much you can do at 10 to increase your strength or your muscles, I guess.
It's true. Learning techniques is definitely better. Finding things like bands and stuff like that to help assist and grab onto was definitely some of the more effective methods.
What was the first thing that happened when you were 7? Do you remember a turning point in her illness? Because people have MS for years and years and years before they even have any sort of symptom of it. So do you remember did it start with her legs, or where did it kind of start showing up?
It started with her legs, and it just started with her just like not being able to walk without holding on to something. So it was always, like walking around the house, holding on to the walls. If we went out and there weren't walls, then she needed to hold on to my arm. So she just grasped that and used me as support to get around.
Mm-hmm. I'm gonna ask that terrible question right now. So, what happened when you were 7 that brought on the MS?
Yeah. Oh, what a great question. So my parents, they separated. My mother and father separated when I was 7 years old. And the idea the story we tell ourselves is that the high amount of stress that was caused by that helped activate kind of the dormant MS that she probably had.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I got in a car accident. It was a stupid car. It's not a terrible tragic story or anything like that, but I got in like a dumb car accident the summer before like my junior year of college, and then for whatever, I guess like the trauma of, because I'd never been in a car accident, and it was a big deal to me, even though it like everything worked out fine. $6,000 later, but uh, the trauma of that is what started bringing on all of these crazy symptoms, like completely unexplainable. And I had weird shit happen to me previously when I was younger, but nothing like what started happening after this car accident. And I think it was maybe like 2 months after the car accident is when I actually went to a doctor and was like, what's going on? And they're like, you have MS. I'm like, huh? Oh, what's that? So trauma definitely kind of, for those of you who don't know about MS, trauma typically will bring on like a relapse or a symptom of MS. Does she have relapsing? Well, it probably progressed really fast, huh? She's probably secondary progressive then?
Yeah, I'm not entirely super familiar with the third, like with all the stages,
Mm-hmm.
but uh, it took about 6 years for her to go from walking to like fully wheelchair bound.
Okay, yeah. Probably, she's probably third stage then. Or when did she pass away?
She passed away, uh, I was 20, so that was 2014.
Was it MS related?
It, she died from pneumonia. But like the fact that MS usually provides you with a weakened immune system,
Mm-hmm.
and then she just wasn't very healthy as an individual at that point. So it was like a coupling of a bunch of different things.
Right.
And I think for her, like by this point, she was in and out of the hospital quite a few times. And I just didn't think that she really wanted to keep fighting. Yep.
Like it's understandable. It's also really angering, but yeah, I mean, choices. We all make choices. I'm sorry,
Mhm.
though, that you had to be, one of the people that gets hurt by someone else's choices. That's always the collateral. Is tragic. Can you talk more about? I've totally interrupted you, but can you talk about like the markers diet? Is that what you called it when you found that diet for her to follow and all that?
Yeah, I think it was called the Gold Coast Makers Diet.
Makers
And
diet.
it was a lady who also got diagnosed with MS that was given the option of traditional medical route treatments of shots or to go holistic method. And she chose holistic and found a lot of um, beauty and healing through cleaning up her diet. So I read this, fell in love, started creating all of these meal plans on my computer, printing out recipes. I didn't really know how to cook. Neither one of us really knew how to
You're like
cook, so
10
it
at this
was a
point, right?
failed. Yeah, it was a
Yeah.
failed method. She couldn't cook. I didn't know how to cook, and I'm like printing out recipes of like, if we make this, which none of us knows how to do, you'll be healed.
Yeah. Oh man. And then did you ever try to get her to like work out, or I know that you were working out, but did you ever try to get her to like do any kind of physical activity?
Yeah, I
Get
tried
her
to do a lot
trained?
of like bands and stuff like that because she couldn't lift a lot. I was hoping to try and get her into doing some resistant training,
Hmm.
but as Ellie, you're probably well aware of, it can be very difficult to motivate some people. And I think I was more on board with her like getting healed, and I think she was more on board with like, well, if I just pray hard enough, like eventually that's going to be the thing that heals me, and so I don't need to eat healthy or work out.
Yeah, that is worst part about my career is getting so invested in somebody else's like goals and being like, I know exactly how to help you. You just have to do this. And they're like, fuck you. No. Like, oh, okay. Like, just shatter my heart. Why don't you? Oh God. Oh my God. So anyways, but through helping your mom with her illness and trying to get her to care about her diet and her physical, abilities, you ended up kind of falling in love with the whole, health, wellness, fitness sort of thing. So what did you do? How did that like kind of influence from 10 years old to 27 years old? How did that play a part in your life?
Well, I thought that it was a lot of fun to be able to work out for a living. So I became CrossFit certified in order to do that, and never ended up making that into a career. But it was a lot of fun to start like going down the journey of what that could have looked like.
Yeah.
But this process of trying to help someone heal came back around when my recent bride of 6 months got extremely ill. She, her name's Scotty, and she ended up getting so ill to the point where she had to quit her job and couldn't even walk up the stairs without being carried. And we had no idea really what caused this, and went to all of the doctors in order to get some answers. And she got treated for arthritis and MS, as well as a Lyme disease. We threw a bunch of different things at the wall trying to get any response, with absolutely zero responses. We went to a witch doctor that we found that was recommended to us by a chef, and she did some pendulum swinging and then told us that she had a microparasite, and got her on all of these like it was high doses of clove in order to heal, and that didn't work. Yeah.
I'm not knocking Eastern medicine at all, but I mean, I think that like when they're combined with like legitimate science, they have some value for sure. But I think on their own, the merit doesn't really hold up.
Yeah, I would agree. So the few things that we did find is she did an elimination diet where she went to kind of just very, very basic foods that didn't that don't have common allergens. And after about 3 days on that diet, she was able to do a squat, which was like the first time she's done that in about 8 months. So we're like, oh, this is progress. And so as we went through the diet, it wasn't the fix that we looked for. It just, we knew that it was something that helped. When she like really honed in her diet, it made a difference. And then we noticed that when winter hit and it got cold, and I'm talking like below 50 degrees.
This is in Montana, right?
Decline. It is. Yep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Her health would decline by about 80%. And so it's kind of like give a perspective of what this is like, I'm just had started up my own catering company, and she becomes super sick, and I know exactly like how to help pick her up off of the floor, because it was the exact same methods that I learned when I was with my mother.
Right.
And it was interesting watching her go through the same like crisis of faith of just like, well, what does life look like for me now, in the same way that my mother did. Mm-hmm. So I'm still extremely healthy, trying to figure out how to help Scotty. And we end up, this is 4 years later, of just trying to figure out how to make her into a point where she can live a life that's enjoyable. And we end up selling our business that we had created by this point, and moving someplace warm. So we moved to Mexico for 6 months, trying to find peace and happiness there. We ended up finding good health because it was warm. I didn't have a job, so like I became extremely depressed. So ended up moving to Austin, Texas, and the warm weather helped, and we cleaned up with the diet, found a bunch of different methods. Intermittent fasting was a huge one of just continuing to make sure her body was resetting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a lot of research on on intermittent fasting for exactly what you're talking about. Even with elimination diets, if you include intermittent fasting, there's some crazy fucking research out there. Very promising stuff.
Yeah, it was a huge help. And then when quarantine hit, she started working out, which was great that I had all this like knowledge on how to work out and help her like assist. And through that, she built up a bunch of body mass, body muscle mass. And through that, we've been able to, now we moved to a place that's still in Texas, but is a little bit colder. And I think through the last work that she's done in the last 2 years, she's now functioning as a relatively healthy individual.
So what do you actually, I don't care what you believe in, but what I am going to say is, do you think that there's some weird universe shit happening? Like, you had to really struggle a lot with what happened with your mom, like big time. That is fucking traumatic. The most traumatic thing that can happen to a child is watching their parents' health fail and having to suddenly take on the responsibility of the parent role for your parent. That's insane. So like that trauma years later turns out to be entirely applicable to helping the love of your life, who actually, I mean, it sounds like Scotty actually gives a shit about her health and, you know, wants to get better and isn't just relying on prayer, which granted, we all go through that moment. I know that I did too. Well, maybe if I just hope hard enough and pray hard enough to whatever the fuck is up there, it'll just make it better for me. And then when that doesn't work, you either decide to be your own change and do all of the things that you can to do it for yourself, or you sit down and you give up. And so obviously Scotty went the good direction, right? But I mean, it's almost kind of like you got like a do-over in a way. Do you know what I mean? Is that how you feel, or is that just me projecting some shit?
Not at all. I think that's exactly right. It was so strange, the similarities and the uncanny of just like, man, this is like the exact same thing. And it was this beautiful moment because when I went through it with my mother, I did not go through it well. Like, I became very resentful for the life that I had to live, being her primary caretaker. And it was this like combo of like, well, I want to be loving. And so like I accept the responsibility that I have, but then at the same time, I'm like, I don't actually want this. And that wasn't a great place to be. And so when it came back around with Scotty, it didn't happen immediately, but I remember literally just this point where I just picked her up off of the ground. She's in the bed, probably crying. I'm in the like kitchen,
Probably crying.
losing my mind. It's like just married, like there's just all this new thing, and you're like, this isn't what it was supposed to be like.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, do you want to help? Like, you can choose to now like help assist in the solution of this. Mm-hmm. And I was at that point of like, yeah, like this is what I want. Like I want to choose this, and it became so much better from that point.
Yeah. Oh man. Joshua also failed to mention that he helped with disaster relief in the fucking Philippines for a second. I don't think you guys realize what a good person this man is. And he's also being like way too humble right now because I think we're all picking up on the fact that you are a special breed, very special type of human. I just met this guy like a couple weeks ago on HiHo, and now we're on Zoom. So here we are. But I don't know if you're as proud of yourself as I am proud of you, but you should be.
Thanks. I'll work on that.
Good. You should. You really should. We need more people like you. So what do you do now? You keep mentioning like culinary stuff. Is that what you do?
No. So back when I was in Montana, came back from the Philippines, needed a job, ended up getting a job at a bakery. A year later, ended up starting my own catering company out of that bakery, and then ran a gourmet custom catering company for 4 years, and then sold that in order to find health with Scotty somewhere else. So we had to go somewhere warmer. So got out of that business and found it to be extremely helpful as a result, because even though I was good at it and I was successful, it wasn't something that I wanted to do long term. I didn't see myself doing it when I was in my 40s. So it was nice to use that as an exit strategy. Currently, I do a couple things. So I'm in Amarillo, Texas, and I help homeschool my 16-year-old sister-in-law. That's why we showed up here. We go running every single morning. We meditate, and then I teach math. And then I do podcasting. So I produce video podcasts for a few clients.
Oh, you like help other people with their podcasts?
Yep.
Ah,
I'll
okay.
record and then chop up that content to live on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube.
Wow, cool. Is that bringing you happiness? What do you want to do?
Oh,
What do you want to be when you grow up, Joshua?
this is exactly what I want to be when I grow up. Like I love I love the fact that I can like structure my life around family. Like that has an incredible return on investment for myself. And then two, I love that I get to learn new technologies on a daily basis, and I learn better ways of communication and how to get other people's message out to the world.
Beautiful human. Look at you.
I
That's
just showed up
awesome.
for the flattery.
Yeah, I guess so, huh? You're like, give it to me, give it all to me. Look at how awesome I am. Da, 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 da. No, not at all. You're exactly the opposite of that. Well, thank you. We're not going to hang up. I'm going to stop recording. And this is all these people get, but thanks for tuning in. Wait, let me shout out your Instagram name or whatever platform you like people to see you on.
Yeah, Instagram, Joshua Dale Young. And then I have my own podcast, Joshua Young Podcast.
Joshua Young Podcast. Joshua Young Podcast. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Podcast that intersects purpose and healing. So
you didn't even mention that. I literally just asked you what you do, and then you said, "Oh, I help other people with their podcast." You didn't even talk about your podcast.
Now, this was the intro. I knew you were going to ask, so I was saving it for that. Intersection, purpose, and healing. So I start with the entire podcast is built off of the question, what conversations are we not having as a society? So like the last, yeah, right. We're really good at not having certain conversations. So there was a chef that I knew that I brought in, chef restaurateur, owns like 4 different restaurants. And we talked about like the challenges of creating sustainable food culture and ethics, because it's so expensive. And most people who do change out of guilt, which is a horrible way to motivate people to do something. And it's just super difficult.
Yeah, I'm going to subscribe to that podcast now too. Wow. You're just full of surprises. Maybe I shouldn't stop recording just in case you say something else fucking amazing. And I'm like, wait, guys, you have to hear this. Wow. Do you have anything else, any other tricks up your sleeve?
If you want to become extremely healthy, get a pit bull, because it's very difficult to keep a well-mannered pit bull if you're not running it every single day. So ever since I've had my pit bull Tommy Pickles for an entire year, and after about 3 months of it just not destroying my life, but being very difficult to manage, I talked to my dog training friend, and he's like, no, you need to exercise him every single day. So we run 2 miles every day.
So note to self, don't get a pit bull. Roger that. I hate running. We're not doing that. Very cool. Very cool. Okay, that's all you guys get. Thank you for tuning in. We love you. If you want to be a guest on the podcast, hit me up. The link, linktr.ee/BTCFit, but you already knew that because we say it on every single episode. Okay, I love you. Happy Tuesday. Goodbye.